What can I say? I'm a journalist in Chicago. I covered the original Wilk trial. I'm old now. I was young then. Um, I was brought, ironically, I was a reporter for the AMA's newspaper, American Medical News, and they were having their mid-year meeting in San Francisco. I was left behind to mind the store, and somehow, I don't know if the legal department messed up or somebody did, but I got a last minute call saying there's this chiropractic trial, as they put it, Wilk et al. Versus AMA et al. Trial over at the federal building and federal courthouse in Chicago. Could I get over there and cover it? Well, I had a great background from high school history in antitrust law, so I had a call on that. And I didn't know that much about chiropractic other than my college roommates ended up becoming a chiropractor, and his dad was a chiropractor in Springfield, Illinois. So I went and covered the trial and actually got in trouble with my bosses at the AMA for my coverage. It turns out I still can't really explain it other than their bosses, and I'm talking about the big bosses at the AMA, were upset that I was basically straight reporting on the news. I wasn't, they asked me, when are you going to tell the AMA side, our side? And I was there as a regular reporter, not telling anybody's side except for whoever was up. And so I got into big trouble for telling the truth. And I ended up leaving the AMA newspaper 2 or 3 months later. And this is 1981. And so I ended up covering the Wilk trial for, 14 years. In a sense, I've covered it for 40 years. I've gotten old with it. And out of the blue, 3 years ago, something like that, I got called by George McAndrews, who was the attorney in the Wilk trial. And he and I had become kind of friendly over the years. I had done an earlier book called The Serpent on the Staff, The Unhealthy Politics of the AMA. And there was a chapter in there on the Wilk trial. And there's plenty of other fodder in there on the AMA and their bad doings. And but there was a chapter in there on the Wilk trial, and that's where I got to know Chester Wilk and George McAndrews. George, it turned out, had clipped out my coverage from the AMA newspaper to keep people apprised of what was going on in the trial. So, just telling the truth doesn't work for some people and it does for others. So George McAndrews called me out of the blue, and he's kind of funny. He never said who was calling. He had this thundering baritone voice, and he'd say, "This is the voice of Irish doom." And so he called me up, and he said he had a friend nearby who wanted to talk to me. And he says, I don't know what he wants, although I'm sure he did. His friend was Lou Sportelli, who may be known to many of you. And Lou Sportelli had been trying for about 20 years to get a book done on the Wilk trial. And there's stories behind the stories on that. He gave me a free hand. He didn't censor me. He just said, tell the truth. So that kind of works for me. How about you? And so I did this book. And, I don't know, I could go on, but funny thing is this was my third book. My first book, we got slammed by O.J. Simpson for 2 years. There was nothing happening in America. My second, and that was the first AMA book. My second book I did with my wife, and neither of these two books are still in print. And this is going back. It was September 11th that got in the way of that book. It was a bestseller on September 6th, and then came September 11th. And the book was a dummies book, Healthcare Online for Dummies. And we said in the book, this is a dummies book, but we don't consider you a dummy, even though your doctor may treat you that way at times. But September 11th screwed that one up. So you know what happened with book number 3. That COVID got in the way, delayed the book for a year, and the book finally came out. And I have to say that my biggest supporters for this book have been in Texas. The only explanation I can think of is that Texas chiropractors went through something similar, I think, to what chiropractors did nationally with the Wilk suit. So maybe either that or the Texas chiropractors are far smarter than the other chiropractors. I couldn't say.